This guy I have as the number one player in this class.
Let's have a conversation about Aidan Hutchinson, 91.83 consensus grade from our group. This is our number 2 overall prospect, according to the TDN consensus at this point in time. And Aidan was a player who at 6'0", 6'5", 260 pounds, 32 1/8 on the arms, 4.74 verified, was perceived to be an end of first round pass rusher. This time last year when he chose to come back to Michigan for his senior season. Boy, what a difference a year makes. This guy might be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. So when we reflect on Aidan Hutchinson a year ago versus Aidan Hutchinson now, the biggest thing that changed was what?
Well, I mean, coming out of that injury and showing that he was healthy and then building upon the flashes that we saw a couple years ago, man, this guy I have as the number 1 player in this class. And it's just a really balanced skill set as a run defender and a pass rusher. He's got a lot of different moves in his repertoire to beat blocks and be able to get home. He's got good vision. He's got active hands and nuanced hands, and he knows how to clear contact and beat blocks. And obviously, I think he's an outstanding run defender. And so the skill set to me speaks for itself. But when you're talking about top of the first round, these are going to be players that are some of the most influential leaders in your building. And I don't think you could be more excited about what Aidan brings, from that perspective, because he's one of those guys that's going to be a pillar of your locker room, a culture changer, just the way he loves football and the way he prepares and how important it is to him. I think that's going to be a great asset for any team at the top of the first round to bring into their building and not only add a dynamic skill set at a premium position, but a guy that checks all the intangibles boxes as well.
He's a relentless is something I wrote down consistently. And his motor is just, there's no way to stop it. He does not care. He wants to keep coming. There's a play, again, I'm blanking on the game, but he's kind of chatting and jawing with the offensive tackle.
Ohio State. He's up there on the line telling Thayer Medford,
and
come bring it.
As soon as the ball's he destroys him. And it's just those type of things, it makes you jump out of your seat when you're watching this tape. Yeah. Now, do I have some questions about his physical limitations? You talked about it. His hips and his ability to bend and turn and flatten. Yes, I do. He's a little high up, right? But he is 6'6", so he doesn't have that natural leverage of being a 6'4" rusher. But physical hands, he knows how to use his length well. He's very, like you said, nuanced and mature as with his handwork as a hand combatter. I would, again, similar to someone we talked about earlier, he's somebody I would not use as a wide angle rusher. I would kind of condense his split and let him get that quick turn and let him go after the quarterback.
I mean, for me, I actually think he tested better than I thought he was. And he ran the 4.77. I think he had a good 10-yard split. For a guy who has his size and length, I think he kind of meets all those requirements. And I think Joe really touched on it. To me, it's his ability to win in a variety of ways, whether that's converting speed to power or whether that's, selling outside and then quickly, cutting it inside for an inside counter. He has all those tools in the bag, and his ability to string rush moves with his hands and always just working to the quarterback. He's never stagnant as a rusher, and that's something I always really appreciate. And then his ability in the run game. He's outstanding, setting the point of attack, really strong, violent hands to stack and shed, and then he's a ball magnet. He locates the football, relentless in pursuit. Is he a guy who's going to give you 13 sacks? Maybe not. I don't know if he's an elite finisher at the quarterback, but overall, you really, really love his floor. I think his ceiling's high enough to warrant that of a top 5 pick. And to me, he's just an overall really complete football player.
Yeah, I think Joe did a good job of setting the stage, talking about both his athletic traits and then him as a person too, right? Because I think all of that goes into it when you talk about drafting a guy that high. Usually, it's a franchise that has some, disorganization, something that's wrong, right? There's a reason why they're drafting number 1 overall, and we talked about all his intangibles, and that's why I feel good with drafting this guy. You talked about him last year. He could have came out and been a first rounder, right? He was draft eligible first rounder. Most guys take that, but I think this is a guy that watched the film on himself and was like, you know what? I can get better. And so I expect him to do the same thing in the NFL. While he does have some athletic limitations, we would have liked him to test maybe closer to one of the Bosa brothers or Chase Young, but I expect him to get it done because he has the intangibles, and that's the biggest thing, right? I think he knows that maybe I can't run around every offensive tackle, because when you watch his hands on tape, they're by far the best. Like, this guy is a technician through and through, so he understands himself, and I think that this is a guy that's a very heady guy as far as understanding and knowledgeable, and that's what I would bet on him as a football player.
Yeah, his family lineage, I think, has really set him up to be a high IQ player. His father played at Michigan in the late 80s and early 90s, and we talked to Aidan at the Super Bowl, and we asked him about that relationship with his father and how his father helped him grow as a player. And he said, my dad always let me come to him. He never offered things unsolicited, and that really helped facilitate me seeking within myself and my own game to get out. Next thing, I'm sending him practice clips every day. How should I have played this? Where should that hand have adjusted to get refit based on the angle and where the ball went? And it was really cool to hear him talk about that relationship with his dad, who was like the team MVP for Michigan his senior season. So he's a very well-respected member of the Michigan football community. And you see that, and you think about Aidan, and we've mentioned the Bosa brothers. I mean, they were 4'7", 4'8" guys too. Right? And they won. They didn't win with running underneath the table at full speed. They won with hand counters, high IQ. I think maybe from a lower body explosiveness perspective, the Bosas are a little bit more dynamic. Yeah. But Aidan ran well in the 3-cone drill. He was in the 4.7 or 6.7s.
Very good. Yep.
He ran a very, very quick 3-cone drill. So, yeah, the height and the leverage is something that I think is going to exist with him. But a guy who's as savvy as this, I think the floor is very high. But he's a consummate professional as far as the way he approaches taking care of his body and developing himself. I would not bet against somebody who is this committed to a process to physically optimizing who he is and is introspective to be able to look inward on himself and continue to improve his game. And that's why he's sitting right up here at the top of the board.